Hello, everybody. It's David Frangioni. Here we are for another episode of the Modern Drummer Podcast, live from the Modern Drummer Hall of Fame. And this is really exciting today because we have a dear friend and an awesome drummer, Brendan Buckley. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. This is my second time in this shrine of drums.
Yes.
Love it here.
Well, thank you for visiting again, but your first podcast with us in the Hall of Fame.
That is true.
So this is great. So we have a lot to catch up on. You were on the cover for your work with Shakira.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And I know that you haven't done anything with Shakira since 2018 because she hasn't done anything really since 2018, right?
As
far as tours.
World tour we did. Yeah, we did a 2017-18 world tour. And then she's been, releasing singles here or there, but we haven't done another tour since then.
And how did that tour go?
It was fantastic. Fantastic. I started working with her in 1998. So, we're just a big family as far as when it's time to get together and rehearse and work on a set list and go around the world. It feels great. And then we take a break, and then we do it again, and then we take a break, and we do it again. So that cycle has been going on for, over 20 years. So I'm looking forward to the next time she wants to do that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And in 98, was she playing still? Was she at the arena level at that point yet?
Oh, yeah.
So she was already doing arenas.
She was already a big star in South America when I joined the band.
Okay.
And then subsequently, she became a world superstar, singing in English and multiple languages and releasing records and blending different kinds of styles of world music. So it really gained a more of a mass appeal after that.
How did you get that gig? How did that happen?
Oh, that started when I used to live in Miami, and I had a lot of friends that worked in studios, producers, engineers, managers. I did sessions at different places. And a friend of mine, a producer engineer named Sebastian Chris, was one of the engineers at Emilio Estefan's studio.
At Crescent Moon.
Crescent Moon.
Yep. Sebastian's a great guy.
Yep. And he asked me if I would come in and record some rock drums on a single that this South American pop singer wanted to do. And I'm like, cool. I think he thought of me as like the rock guy. So I came in, I played drums on one song, and they said, it's great. You want to come back tomorrow and do another one? I did that. You want to come back tomorrow and do another one? I did that. And then I played on 5 or 6 songs, and that wound up being Shakira's 1998 record. And then they asked if I wanted to join the band to do an MTV Unplugged. So I went to New York. We did that. And then from that point on, I guess they just dragged me everywhere.
And so it wasn't that you really auditioned in a sense, right? You played on these songs and they loved how you played, and it just kind of evolved into a gig.
I would say most of the work I do does not involve auditions. Most of it comes from a recommendation, a word of mouth recommendation, a friend saying, who might be good for this? This guy. Or, this guy's busy. If you can't get him, get this guy. And I feel like there's a little undercurrent of friendly recommendations going around through the music industry, drumming and otherwise. And I'm fortunate that I have so many friends that think of me when there's a job opening, I guess.
Right. They're friends, but they're business associates that respect your playing, right? So you get along with them, great, but you get the recommendations because you've proven to be reliable and you've proven to get the job done, right? Which at the end of the day is really why anybody gets hired in music.
It is true. Yeah, you can get in the door, but to not get kicked out of that door, you have to prove that you can do a good job and be sustainable. And so I think I've learned a lot from other drummers over the years about what works and what doesn't work.
What would be one of the biggest lessons you've learned that you can share that other drummers can benefit by the way you have?
It's a good question. Let me think. Sometimes I think that we should approach our job or our position as a drummer more of a problem solver than just someone who plays boom, pa, boom, boom, pa. You are here, you're getting hired to solve a list of problems. One, they need a drummer to record drums on an album, or they need a drummer to do a concert, or they need a drummer to do a tour. That's one thing you're doing. But you're also doing other things like, can you travel internationally? Do you have a passport? Does your gear sound good?
Is it ready?
Is it ready? Do you show up on time? Do you have road cases, or do we need to? How do we ship your drums from A to B? Or there's just a list of logistical things that have to happen. Emotional, all different things have to happen to make a recording session, concert, or tour go smoothly. And if you can kind of suss all of those things out and have an answer for every one of them, you look extremely valuable. When it might be common sense, but then they say, wow, that guy, it was just a breeze working with that person and this person and this person. And a lot of times, managers, producers, tour managers, artists, they want to put together a band where everyone sounds good, everyone looks good, but also it's very easy to learn music, rehearse music, go on tour, and everyone there is very helpful. You can be helpful and solve problems without being like a thorn in people's side or the squeaky wheel or whatever.
And you learned that. Did you have to learn it the hard way? Did you learn it by, in your case, did you learn it by going in and not being so easy to work with at one point? Or did you somehow, just through being brought up with certain values and just kind of working on yourself enough that when opportunities presented themselves, you were kind of dialed in? Or how much of that did you have to learn trial by fire?
I think it was a little bit of both. I think part of it was upbringing and how I was taught to behave from my drum teachers or my parents or my peers. Another thing was a little bit of trial and error. Like, well, maybe I didn't handle that situation the best way possible. Maybe if I ever get to do that again, I'm going to do it differently.
And you learned.
You learn that over time. Everyone makes mistakes, and there's a lot of stress, a lot of negotiation. You know that, and so you have to learn how to handle negotiations well, where you get what you want or what you need, but the other person also gets what they want and what they need, and everyone's happy with the result.
Which is very tricky, because sometimes you negotiate with a business manager, and if you're not careful, there can be animosity, and then you get the gig, and now this business manager is on your team, quote unquote, but maybe not very happy that you're on the same team.
Yeah. A team is a good word to use. You have to look at it as though we're all on the same team, trying to reach the same objective. We're not opposing each other the whole way, because that won't lead to a successful result. You know, we have to all kind of be on the same freight train going in the same direction, you know. So I think that's a good way to look at it. And those are some of the lessons I learned along the way. I'm still learning them, but I learned a lot.
Attitude, right? Because what it feels to me like you're saying is attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good for yourself. It's good for the other people around you. If you have a positive attitude and a good work ethic, I think that helps you to be a better player, but it also helps everyone else around you. You know, they do their job better. They like having you around.
And they can rely on you at that point, because you're going to be ready. With the work ethic, you're going to be meeting whatever challenges come up.
Yeah, and like I said earlier, it's not just me. I learned this from a lot of great examples along the way. I'm like, I'm going to be more like that guy, or I'm going to take his little 15% that he does here, and you just watch and learn what works and what doesn't work. And if you're receptive to that, the signals are around you everywhere.
And would there be someone who you would consider an inspiration or mentor along your journey that you'd like to single out?
Well, so many. But man, where do I start? I'm going to go grab dinner tonight with a guitarist named Tim Mitchell. Tim Mitchell has been in Shakira's band since 1999. He's a dear friend of mine, and he has given me a lot of advice over the years on how to handle different types of things that happen in the music industry, whether it comes to songwriting, producing, touring, everything involved. He's just one of the hundreds of people I've met along the way that I can say is just fantastic, irreplaceable
a lot of guidance.
friend. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So in addition to the Shakira project that you're always working on, the touring and whatnot, you also play with Morrissey. Mm-hmm. And how did that gig come along?
That gig came along. That's what I did last night. I'm on tour here in Florida because we played a show here last night. I started with him in 2021. It was during the pandemic where he had a Las Vegas residency. and they were without a drummer. I guess their long-term drummer couldn't do a set of dates. So the musical director reached out to me, again, through a word of mouth. Another producer gave him my info and said, you should hire this guy. So he called me up, said, are you available for this set of dates? I said, I am, actually. He goes, great. I'll see you at the first rehearsal. No audition, no anything. I'm like, do you want me to send a video, or do you want to? He's like, nah, my friends told me you'll do a great job, so I trust you. So that was my audition, was just, are you available? Cool. I'll start sending you songs, and I'll see you at the first rehearsal. It was like that.
In Las Vegas, they were rehearsing as well?
We rehearsed in Los Angeles.
Oh, in LA, okay.
And then we went to Vegas, and we did a set of dates there. And it went well, so they asked me to continue. And we've been doing it, I guess, for a little over 2 years now.
And did you find it challenging to learn the songs, or was it, really firmly in your wheelhouse? Like, what did you have to do to be ready?
Well, learning material, learning songs and catalogs is one of the things I do pretty well.
Okay.
There's things I don't do well on the drums, and one of the things I think I do well is learning mountains of songs.
Okay.
And
true to the record and just like ready to go.
Well, I have a process. And
okay.
Well, first I should say that I listened to Morrissey's music and the Smiths, his previous band, all throughout my upbringing. So I was already familiar with it. But that's not how I approach it. I don't approach it like a fan. I approach it like this is work. So when I get a set list of 20, 30, whatever, 40, 50 songs, and I just put on headphones and I start writing out my charts. And I make them very specific in the beginning. Here is the BPM on the album. I checked out some live recordings. They do it at this tempo live. This is the kick drum pattern, open hi-hat here, ride here. This is the drum fill going into, I write out everything. It's just a fun exercise for me. Some people do Sudoku or crosswords. I write charts for songs. I just transcribe everything, and I'll look at live versions too. And I'm like, oh, I like how this drummer did it differently on the choruses. And I write alternate version here. And then once I have all my stack of charts for the material, then I start hacking away at the songs myself on the drums. How does it feel for me? Would I play it exactly like this drummer on the recording, or the live drummer, or option C, my own hybrid way of doing it? And then I memorize everything. And then I go to the rehearsal, and I feel like I have a way to play this. I can make it sound exactly like the album. I can make it sound exactly like the way the previous drummer did it, like 3 years ago. Or if they want my way, I'll do my way, And I can kind of slide between all three versions. So, because I don't know what the artist might want. They're like, it needs to sound more like the original, or please don't ever play it like the original. I'm so sick of that version. So or they'll say, there was something we used to do on the verse 3. There were some hits or stops that we added. I don't remember what it is. They're like, I know. Yeah, you stop on beat 4 of the 5th bar right here. I know that. Okay, because I wrote it down. So,
and you bring your charts with you, even though you've memorized it at that point.
I usually have it on the floor by the hi-hat, just in case
okay.
they say, we used to do something different on the outro. I'm like, oh, yeah, you used to double the outro and then, do this hold here. Okay, yeah, I have it written here. So, yeah. And then once you get a couple shows under your belt, you don't need the charts at all. You're just playing it the way you want to play it.
And how was Morrissey? How is he to work with?
He's great. He's really great. He's a great singer, great lyricist.
Great performer.
Great performer. Music lover. Like his influences are everything under the sun. So we talk about music a lot, about drum parts that he likes, drum sounds he likes, and never like how to play his songs, but just inspiration. Like, I love this, I love this. He'll send me a Gene Krupa video. Like, have you ever seen this guy? I'm like, yeah, I've seen Gene Krupa, yeah. He's like, I love this. So
he's that into it. Like,
yeah.
You get to Gene Krupa. I mean, that's pretty deep into drums.
He loves drums.
Even though he's such a famous drummer, but for drummers.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Vinny Colaiuta
and Kimo Williams. Please check out our Red Summer 1919. It's streaming now.
It's a must listen.
Also with Mike Stern, Richard Bona, and Michael Brecker.
fantastic. And so, how does your rig change between the Shakira gig and the Morrissey gig, if it changes at all? How do you adapt that?
Yeah, my rig changes from artist to artist to artist, no doubt about it. I always, for my own comfort, I always start with the same setup, more or less. I usually start with a kick drum, hi-hat, rack tom, floor tom, ride, hi-hat, crashes, maybe a double pedal, I start with that. That's my basis. And I approach every gig starting with that, and I add things as I think it would work musically. I like playing with 2 floor toms if I can, 16, 18. I like playing with a side snare, like something left of the hi-hat, maybe a 13-inch snare drum cranked really high. And then I add some electronics if it helps the show.
Does it in either of those artists' tours?
Yeah, well, for Shakira, I play a lot of electronics because she loves, for anything that's dance-oriented, she wants it to be very electronic, the samples. And then everything that's a ballad or rock song, she wants it to be like John Bonham, like just acoustic drums, Larry Mullen Jr.
So do you trigger or do you play pads to get the dance sounds?
I've done both over the years. Okay. Sometimes I've done triggers on kick and snare. But often I have just either rubber or mesh pads dispersed around the kit where I can hit things if I need to. Extra kick triggers on the ground, little E kicks on the ground where I can hit different kinds of sounds. For the Morrissey setup, I don't have any electronic triggers per se, but I do have a SPDSX pad, which I use to fire off different kinds of samples if I need it. It's very minimal, but there are certain things that need to happen, so I'll hit different sound effects and things. But it's all from case-to-case basis. Like I did a tour with Perry Farrell, and he has a song by Porno for Pyros called Pets, and it has this high bongo sound just on the quarter notes. So I just put a little, something like this, a little drum by my hi-hat just for that song, because I knew that's kind of a signature Stephen Perkins beat. So I had that there. That doesn't exist on any of my other rigs, but for that rig, I needed that for that song when it was in the set list, because it just, without it, it didn't sound right to me.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when you're not with Morrissey and you're not with Shakira, you're doing session work, but you also have a side project. Tell us about what you do for your side project and other projects that you're working on.
Well, I do, one of the side projects I do in my home studio is, I call it Drummer Plus Drummer. That is a drum duet series that I started during the pandemic, actually, just because I had so many drummer friends that had home studios and they sounded great. I would listen to the way they play. I'm like, man, you sound great in your studio. I love the tones you get. And I thought I'd like to do some kind of collaboration, a musical collaboration with these drummers, friends of mine that sound so good. So I said, maybe we can do like a drum duet. You record your part, I record my part virtually, and we
just drums?
It's just drums, and we put it together, 2 drummers side by side, and I'll make a little 1-minute video of a musical contrapuntal beat that we can do. And I started with a few friends of mine, and then it was very fun for me, and challenging also. So I just kept it going. I would do 1 a week, and now I think I'm up to, I've done maybe 68 of them or something like that.
And where can we hear them?
Well, they're on YouTube, they're under my name, or they have their own Instagram channel called Drummer Plus Drummer, all spelt out that way. And I also released 2 records on Spotify under that name of these duets. And it just features all of these great players that I feel very fortunate that I even know them. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And it's kind of my my ode, my love letter to drumming in general, because I just love the drums. And so I just love the way they sound. I love the way other people play, and I love to share and mingle. So it's a great way to do that.
And we can find him on Spotify. Just search Brendan Buckley, and we'll find him on Spotify.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So what else do you want to share with the drumming community? What's next? And what do you have for advice to tell a drummer as you continue your journey?
Well, as far as what's next, I have I'm continuing with the Morrissey tour for the time being. We're finishing a U.S. tour, then going to Asia, then going to South America. I think we're going to go to Europe and record another record at some point. And whenever I go back to LA, I continue to work with all of my local musician friends there and out of my home studio there. I do a lot of recordings remotely for people at this point.
Because you have your own setup,
have
so
my own
someone
recording
can mail you music, email, and you can do it in Pro Tools or Logic and send it back.
Yeah, it's very common now for people to do that. And as far as advice for I could go on and on and on. I love talking about drums. I love helping other drummers. Anyone who has a question can always write to me on my website, just brendanbuckley.com, and if it's about drums, I'll just go blah, 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 blah. I love it. So
You love the drums your whole life? You're a lifelong, like when did you fall in love with the drums? What time period in your life?
about 13. But I might have loved it even earlier, but I started actually getting my hands sticks on drums around 13.
Okay.
And
And it only grew from there.
yeah, I think I fell in love with Alex Van Halen, and then I would watch MTV videos all the time. I think I had headphones on. It was just it was a fun thing for a middle school, high school kid to do. I did a lot of activities. I skateboarded, I played sports, and then I found drums. I'm like, wow, this is really fun. Physically, for my brain, socially, because you get to jam with other musicians, and I just loved it.
And you still do.
I still do.
Hanging out with you and being blessed to call you a friend, I am just so energized by your nonstop enthusiasm. You love the drums. Like sometimes when drums become a career, or any instrument becomes a career for a musician, over time it gets a little bit kind of, predictable, and it's the fresh kind of childlike enthusiasm that we have for our instrument can diminish a little bit. But I've only seen with you for it to grow, to actually get bigger and more enthusiastic. It's gone the other way.
You let me know if I need to turn it down a little bit. But
No, you don't. I love it.
I find it so when musicians travel, they're on tour and they come through LA, sometimes they'll hit me up and say, hey, can I do a drum lesson with you? Just one drum lesson. I'm like, yeah, come by my studio. And I'm so excited even to teach someone. I'm like, oh, let me show you this cool thing. Let me show you. I have a problem with this. Let me show you what I used to do when I had a problem with that. It's fun for me to help other people, like drum whisperer style, and it's fun for me to learn from other people. Like, I love the way you tune that or hit that, or the way you're sticking that. It's this puzzle and this way of expression that just keeps on giving. I haven't found the end yet, and I haven't gotten tired of it yet.
Right. Well, they always say that the top of one mountain is the bottom of the next. Right. So that's your approach. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Brendan Buckley, Modern Drummer Podcast. I'm David Frangioni. Thank you for joining us today, my man. Great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll see everybody out there soon.